Good evening, council members. My name is Catherine Hawkins, and I'm here on behalf of Rochester A Better Chance, which is a local nonprofit. We're located at 727 2nd Street Southwest. We would like to second everything that Mr. French said. We do want to formally oppose our assessment. We do have a couple of questions, but first I'd like to just say thank you for hearing our concerns, and we appreciate your patience. This is not something we go through on a regular basis on our board. There are 7 of us here this evening off our board. We're very passionate this year. We're very happy to say that after a year of some very turbulent times, which I'm sure many of you heard about, we have a lot of friends here. We are doing very, very well, and we recognize that this assessment would greatly set us back on our operating budget, so we are very concerned. We have a couple of questions, if you don't mind, for the council members, if that's okay. Could you please help me to understand, and I've been doing a little bit of research. In your packet this evening, you had the actual estimate for the assessment as a whole on the budget. And one of the lines in that assessment on page 3, line 2, is to the effect of charge the abutting property owners 50% of the cost of the public street construction and related costs per accessible foot of the abutting frontage. Is this correct that we're supposed to be charged 50% of the cost? Because to me it looks like we're getting 100% of that.
Richard, could you speak to that?
Actually, the individual abutting property owners are paying 25% of the cost. There's a property owner on each side of the street, so 25%, and 25% is 50%, and the city pays the other 50%. Yeah. So as an abutting property owner, you're paying 25% of the cost.
So, and the total cost of the project is?
$4.1 million.
Exactly. And how much is the assessment for the tax assessment again?
We're assessing $1.4 million. The city is not assessing the full cost of the improvements because there are other improvements, aesthetic improvements that the city is not assessing any cost for. The city is paying 100% of those costs.
Okay. Do you have a full budget that we might be able to take a look at to see? I was just concerned with that line and that will be charged $310 a square foot for.
Yes, pages 98 and 96, 97, 98, and 99 of the council packet are the feasibility report that has the information you're requesting.
And so all the numbers on here under street reconstruction sidewalks are 50% of the costs, not 100%?
The sidewalks are 100% of the cost.
Okay, and so for the street reconstruction, you're saying the 310 is 100% or 50%? I apologize.
25%.
Okay.
That'd be 25% of a portion of the total cost.
Correct. Actually, the 310 would be 50%, and then that is assessed to you at 50% of that as an abutting owner.
Okay, because it actually says 310 on our estimate. Is that correct?
310 a foot, yes.
Yes. So I stand corrected. The 310 is the 25% rate. Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Charge 310 per foot on the south side, 310 per foot on the north side. The city does the additional 310 and 310 for the middle, basically. So 620. So the city is taking, so the per cost foot of reconstruction of the street is in excess of $1,200 per linear foot or per centerline foot.
Thank you very much. I apologize. That was a little bit of confusing wording. We just wanted to make sure that was clear. The other question that we had was on the definition of hardship. We recognize that special assessments may be made, deferring those assessments to individuals that are over the age of 65, have either disabilities or handicaps, or are actively serving in our military. And so we were curious, under Minnesota statute 435.193, it states that any city or town electing to defer special assessments shall adopt an ordinance or resolution establishing standards and guidelines for determining the existence of a hardship. Are those standards and guidelines, have they been determined for this project? And by any chance, may we have an opportunity to look at them?
Yeah, the city does have its policies related to deferred assessments. The one item that you neglected to indicate, it only applies to properties that are homesteaded properties. So that's a big thing there. You know, we're dealing with a number of nonprofit organizations that have some issues with the assessments. Unfortunately, under Chapter 429, or excuse me, Chapter 435 of the statutes, it only pertains at this juncture to homesteaded properties. I've had a number of calls. Folks have called Doug and others in Public Works. They've directed them to the city clerk and myself to discuss deferred assessments with them. There are some people that we have discussed with already that we know qualify, but some of the other folks, such as the nonprofits, it doesn't meet the statutory requirements.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. And thank you very much, Council, for your patience. We have just one other question. The interest rate for the cost of this project, if we choose to pay it over a period of time, has been determined to be 5.75%. Can you please explain what the rationale was behind that interest rate?
Mr. Martinson could best do that. That rate is set by our finance department on an annual basis. It includes, as I recall, about 1.5% above the going interest rate. That 1.5% covers the city's carrying cost for levying the assessments, collecting them, and that sort of thing. So the effective rate of interest, I believe, would be 4.25% on this, plus the 1.5% added on by the finance department.
Okay. We just feel that that was a little bit high pertaining to the going rate of interest rates for loans. We just want to, again, propose our objection to this, especially with that interest rate. Obviously, with our operating budget of around $70,000 a year to do the wonderful work that we do, this would definitely be something that we would not be able to pay immediately out of pocket. We do not have that type of cash on hand. So for us, that would mean that we would definitely have to defer. And if we did decide to pay it over 10 years, in addition to the $18,000, we would probably be paying close to $6,000 in interest alone. So again, another opportunity that we might be able to use that money, if we were able to raise it, to bring another student into our wonderful program. Over the past 40 years that we've been in this community, we've helped over 100 students of varying backgrounds and different inner city populations become successful leaders, both in our community and outside of it. We have been able to break the cycle of poverty on a very limited budget. Our entire 100% of our revenues come from donations, and we just feel that, you know, the people that are giving to our organization aren't giving for street reconstruction. So we want to be sure we're honest to them as well. That's about all we have. Is there any questions from the council for RBC?
I just wanted to, respond to one of your things too about the interest rate from the city is, what it's deemed to be based on our costs. And what I've advised all groups that I've talked to about this, particularly ones with larger assessments, is, if your assessment is large enough, take a look and see if some sort of a private loan would be more appropriate for your situation. However, what I'd point out is anytime you're dealing with any of these other going rates that you referenced, you're going to have a lot of transaction costs. And in your situation, I think you'd find that the 5.75 would be significantly less than whatever you'd find once the transaction costs are figured in. But I am sensitive to the point that that number appears larger than what you would see in the market.
Thank you. And again, we really greatly thank the council for your time and your patience. We hope that we can continue to help people in the community, and this is definitely a trying time for us.
Thank you very much.
Quick questions for Ms.
Yes.
Hawkins. Ms. Hawkins, have you ever received a donation from Rochester Foundation?
I wouldn't know that off the top of my
Okay,
head.
I just wondering. Thanks.
It would be nice if we did, probably around the amount of $18,000.
They're in the back.
Thank you.
Mr. Allen is shaking his head yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Another board member that might want to say something for you in the flash. She's our resident director. Thank you.
Councilmember Means, again, we would ask that the people identify whether they're the owner of the property. Are you the owner of the
She's a
property?
board member.
My husband and I are the current resident directors.
Are you the owner of the property?
I think that Rochester Better Chance is the owner of the property,
Okay.
and
Thank
that
you,
is
Mr.
a
Priest.
nonprofit. And that is 727 2nd Street Southwest. Council members, it's a pleasure to address you tonight. I'm not often on this side of the podium, and it certainly is a different perspective from here. My husband and I were just recently appointed as the new resident directors, so we have moved into the Rochester Better Chance home and are having a delightful time with these amazing scholars that have chosen Rochester to be the area and the school district that they choose to get their outstanding education from. As Catherine said, we've had over 100 graduations from John Marshall. And of that, we are trying to find the actual data, but almost 100% of those have gone on to graduate from college. That is an extraordinary number. This is a program that is nationally over 41 years. Rochester is 40 years this year. So we're having a huge celebration of which you're all invited to, and you're welcome to make a donation. I'm going to speak on a little bit different because my husband and I are the ones that get to supervise and oversee these wonderful young men. And one of the questions that I had was, we can't even put a driveway, a concrete patio, if you will, for our cars in the back because of the green space issue that we must maintain. And with the amount of footage that you are proposing to take from Rochester Better Chance property and then charge us to put a sidewalk back in and other stuff that you're assessing, we now will not meet that green space. Now, this could all bring in together the picture where a year ago you asked if Rochester Area Foundation made a donation. We're so new to this, I don't know, but we do know that there was an attempt to purchase that site in exchange for another piece of property that was not deemed up to what the program needed. So for us, we would then ask you, what do we do? Do we need to seek a waiver for the green space piece? How will we go about addressing that?
Just a question on that. Are we taking any?
No.
No.
There's no property acquisition as part of this project.
There's no
We're staying within the right-of-way.
right where we are. So we
Correct.
will not lose any green space. Great, I stand corrected. The other piece that I would ask that we would be provided, we have looked in our PO box, we have looked at the mail that comes to the house. We have not received the hand-delivered plans that were referred to earlier by Mr. Allen. So we would love to take a look at that and see that. In the transition in the summer, there was possibly some hearings that, as the new board
That would
comes
have
in.
been back
that
in the
wouldn't have-
2008 timeframe.
Okay, so that would have been way before us
Yeah,
anyway.
that was when the planning started.
But we would love to take a look at that plan that might have cleared up that question. I wouldn't have come up here talking about green space. We do appreciate all that you're trying to do. We do appreciate what this city has done for our program. We do, and we have said before, this is going to be a hardship, and perhaps it's just going to be a different way to have to fundraise with the box that says for Second Street expansion or improvements. But we would encourage you to come to the home, and regardless how this vote is going to go tonight, and meet these young men. They're outstanding. They're giving back to this community monthly in service projects, and their grade point averages are coming up so that they can do the city of Rochester proud, and also their communities back home, and hopefully become the leaders that was envisioned. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Bly.